Picture this. You're standing in your driveway. It's the end of August.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking down at what used to be your absolute pride and joy in the spring. And now it is just this thin, brown, beat-up patch of sadness.
The dreaded August crunch.
Exactly. You're stepping on it, and it crunches. And you're just thinking, I did everything right in the spring. Where did it all go wrong?
Right. Yeah.
If you live in North Carolina or really anywhere with a brutal summer climate, you know that visual all too well.
Yeah.
It's depressing. But today, we are going on a mission to fix it.
We are.
We're outlining a concrete, foolproof strategy for a fall fescue comeback. And to do this, we are pulling from two really vital sources for our deep dive today. First, we have an expert guide from Long Pride of North Charlotte. And that details the specific pitfalls that ruin fescue lawns in the fall. And second, we have this specialized pro note that focuses entirely on the actual science of watering.
Right, which is huge.
Yep.
So huge. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because what we're talking about today, it isn't just a list of, weekend chores.
No.
This is a highly scientific process of resurrecting an entire ecosystem in your front yard.
Yeah, and, the frustration you described in that driveway scenario, it's a universal homeowner experience.
It really is.
And it is completely valid. I mean, it's crucial to acknowledge the relentless barrage that these lawns actually endure.
Right, like what are they actually fighting against?
Well, you have searing heat, prolonged drought, and then, sudden heavy rainfall that just washes away all your nutrients.
Oh, yeah. The southern thunderstorms.
Exactly. Plus foot traffic compressing the soil, turf diseases, aggressive weeds. I mean, even the absolute healthiest, most well-maintained lawns struggle to survive that kind of gauntlet.
It's a war zone out there.
It really is.
Yeah.
But the promise we're making for this deep dive is that by the time we finish, you will understand the biological and chemical why of lawn care.
Right.
And knowing that why is going to save you time, money, and a lot of heartache. And understanding that underlying logic, I mean, that changes everything. Because before we even think about, throwing down seed or buying fertilizer at the big box store, we have to look at the patient.
Yes. Yeah.
We need a proper diagnosis.
Yes.
Because you cannot prescribe a cure if you don't know what you're actually looking at.
Exactly.
Which brings us to a massive, like a psychological hurdle for homeowners.
Yeah.
According to the guide, the biggest emotional trap is looking at a brown lawn and just assuming the grass is completely dead.
Yes.
But I want to push back on behalf of frustrated yard owners everywhere right now.
Go for it.
If my grass is entirely brown and crispy in late August, why shouldn't I just rent a tiller, rip it all out to the bare dirt, and literally start over from scratch?
I get that urge, I really do. But what's fascinating here is the biological difference between grass that is actually dead and grass that is utilizing a very specific survival mechanism.
Okay, so it's surviving.
Right. Tall fescue is a cool season grass.
Yes.
Genetically, it thrives when the air is crisp. It absolutely hates the peak North Carolina summer heat.
It just wants to be in the shade with a sweater.
Exactly. So when temperatures skyrocket into the 90s and water gets scarce, fescue triggers this evolutionary defense mechanism. It goes dormant.
Okay.
It deliberately shuts down top growth. It turns brown, and it just stops trying to maintain those lush green blades.
So it's intentionally sacrificing the top to save the bottom.
That's exactly it. It is pulling all of its remaining carbohydrates and its energy downward to keep its crown, that vital growing center just at the soil line.
Oh, right, the crown.
Yeah, it keeps the crown and its root system alive underground. It basically slows its respiration rate to a crawl. So it is highly heat stressed, yes, but it is not dead.
Wow.
Now, certainly some patches might be entirely gone, from a localized fungus or extreme drought, but a vast majority of that brown lawn is just waiting for the weather to break.
So tilling it is the worst thing you could do.
Yes. Tilling the yard destroys a mature, established root system that was perfectly willing to bounce back once the soil temperatures cooled down.
That is wild.
Yeah, so you have to evaluate the terrain really closely. You have to ask, is it dormant? Is it diseased?
Right.
Is it just thin turf that needs overseeding, or are there genuinely bare patches? You have to diagnose those specific localized failures before demanding a total replacement.
Which means treating fall lawn care like a one-day project is a guaranteed path to failure, according to the guide.
Absolutely.
You cannot fix months of intense summer heat stress with one single afternoon of yard work. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. A successful fescue lawn doesn't come from one frantic application of fertilizer or one pass with a seed spreader. It's a
A
sequence.
sequence, right?
It requires soil evaluation, aeration, strategic seeding, targeted fertility, disciplined watering, and precise weed management. Every single piece biologically affects the next piece in the chain.
It's like trying to run a marathon on a broken leg.
Yeah, good analogy.
You can't just throw on a new pair of running shoes, which in this case I guess is a bag of expensive premium grass seed. You can't put those shoes on and expect to win the race. You have to evaluate the overall health of the system first. Like, you have to look at the soil compaction, address the bare areas, and treat the disease before you demand that the grass perform for you.
You are repairing the foundation before you build the house. The highest quality seed in the world will not overcome toxic or unlivable soil conditions.
Okay, that perfectly transitions us into our next phase.
Great.
We know the lawn isn't completely dead, and we know we need a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
So how do we prepare the environment for this new life? According to our sources, this is all about timing and terrain.
Yes, timing is everything.
Let's talk timing first. A lot of people, myself included, wait until the leaves are actively falling in late October or November to even think about their grass.
You sure?
Why is waiting that late such a disaster for fescue?
It all comes down to the biological clock of the plant.
Okay.
Because fescue is a cool season grass, conditions become optimal for seed to germinate right as summer temperatures finally begin to decline. But that golden window is incredibly narrow.
How narrow are we talking?
Well, if you wait until late October or November, the soil temperatures are dropping way too rapidly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. New fescue needs time to do several things before the winter frost arrives. First, it has to break its seed coat. Then it pushes up an initial shoot, develops a foundational root system, establishes multiple blades to begin photosynthesizing, and finally, it has to build physical cellular strength to survive freezing temperatures.
Wow. It's a lot of work for a little plant.
It is.
It's like sending a kid to college.
Exactly.
They need time to get situated, figure out where the dining hall is, and learn the campus before finals week hits.
Yeah.
If you plant in November, the harsh winter freezes arrive while the plant is still essentially an infant.
That is a perfect way to look at it. September is the prime time for the transition zone in southern climates. When the temperatures moderate in September, you give that seed the maximum number of weeks to establish a deep root system before the first hard frost.
Right.
And if it doesn't get strong in the fall, it definitely will not have the root mass required to survive the searing heat of the following summer.
Okay, so September is the golden window.
Got it.
Let's move to the terrain, because this completely shifts how I view the dirt in my own yard.
Oh yeah, this is a big one.
Let's paint a picture here. Let's say I live in the Charlotte area, which is notorious for hard, dense clay soil.
The worst.
Yeah. I buy a bag of seed and just scatter it all over the yard without aerating first. I am basically throwing seeds on concrete and expecting a forest to grow.
It is a massive trap. Homeowners often assume they purchased a bad batch of seed when nothing grows.
Right. They blame the seed.
Always. But the seed was viable. The soil structure was the barrier. High traffic areas combined with clay-heavy soils, they just become structurally compromised over time. To really understand this, you have to look at the microscopic composition of clay.
Okay, break that down for me.
Unlike sand, which is made of round particles that leave plenty of air gaps, clay particles are flat, like microscopic plates.
So they just stack right on top of each other.
They stack incredibly tightly like a deck of cards. When foot traffic or heavy lawnmowers press down on that clay week after week, those plates lock together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the soil particles get pushed so tightly that the macroscopic pore space, the tiny gaps between the dirt, completely collapses.
Well, there's no room for anything.
There is literally no physical room for water molecules, oxygen, or nutrients to move through the ground. Plant roots actually need oxygen to perform respiration. If the soil is tightly compacted clay, the roots suffocate.
That sounds awful for the plant.
It is. And furthermore, grass seed requires direct physical contact with the soil to establish a moisture bridge.
Moisture bridge.
Yeah, it has to touch the dirt to pull water in. It cannot sit on top of a hard, impenetrable surface and thrive. So core aeration is the absolute only mechanical way to break that lock.
And core aeration, just to be clear, that's running that heavy machine over the yard that pulls out those little finger-sized plugs of dirt.
Exactly. It physically removes thousands of small cores from the lawn. You aren't just driving spikes into the dirt.
Oh, wait. Because I've seen those spike shoes you can walk around in.
Yeah, don't use those. Driving spikes actually increases compaction by pushing the soil aside.
Oh, it just packs the deck of cards tighter.
Yes. But by extracting those plugs with a core aerator, you instantly create structural relief. You provide open pathways that allow water, atmospheric oxygen, and fertilizers to penetrate deeply into the root zone.
Ah, okay.
And crucially for overseeding, those holes create thousands of little safe havens for the new seed to fall into. It shields them from the hot sun and hungry birds while ensuring excellent seed-to-soil contact.
The guide actually has this equation that I think is going to be an aha moment for the listener. They lay it out so simply.
Yeah, that's great.
Seed plus poor soil contact equals disappointing results. But aeration plus seed plus proper watering equals a much better opportunity for establishment.
Right.
You aren't just planting seeds, you are actively engineering a microclimate.
You are restructuring the physical earth to make it hospitable. Without that mechanical intervention, you are simply feeding expensive seed to the local bird population.
Which is very generous of you, but not great for the yard.
Not at all.
Okay, so we've got our timing down in September. We've aerated the soil, broken up the clay, and established great seed-to-soil contact. But our new grass is about to enter a literal turf war.
Oh, yeah, the battlefield.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we have to talk about weeds and feeding. The guide points out this super frustrating paradox. Fall is the absolute best time for fescue to grow, but it is also the peak germination window for certain aggressive winter weeds.
The great paradox of lawn renovation. You do all this meticulous work, you aerate, you seed, the lawn starts showing this beautiful green fuzz.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, you have an explosion of chickweed or henvid. The stakes are vital here. These weeds are aggressive opportunists. They immediately begin competing with your young, vulnerable fescue for limited water, soil nutrients, sunlight, and physical growing space.
Now, normally, if I see weeds, my immediate reaction is to go buy a bottle of weed killer.
Right.
I spray the herbicide, the weeds die, the grass lives. Easy. But the guide says there is a massive catch when dealing with newly seeded lawns. And I want to dig into this, because how does a chemical spray actually know the difference between a dandelion and a blade of fescue?
That is the core issue. Often it doesn't.
Wait,
Really. You cannot treat an overseeded lawn the same way you treat an established, mature lawn. To understand why, we have to look at how these herbicides function.
okay.
Pre-emergent herbicides, for example, create a chemical vapor barrier in the top half-inch of the soil. When a weed seed germinates and pushes out its first little root, which is called a radicle, the chemical inhibits cell division. The weed dies before it ever breaks the
That
surface.
sounds great.
It does, but if you put down grass seed into that same chemical barrier, the herbicide will stop the grass seed's cell division just as ruthlessly.
The pre-emergent just sees a germinating seed. It doesn't care if it's a weed or a premium fescue blend.
Exactly. It's an equal opportunity destroyer.
Okay, so what about post-emergent sprays? Like the stuff you spray directly on the leaves of the weeds you can already see.
Well, post-emergent herbicides often work by overloading the plant with synthetic growth hormones, forcing the weed to rapidly grow itself to death, or by shutting down its ability to photosynthesize.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's intense. Now, mature fescue grasses have deep root reserves and thick, waxy cuticles on their blades that allow them to metabolize or repel that chemical without dying.
Oh, okay, so they have armor.
Right. But a newly germinated fescue blade is incredibly delicate. It completely lacks that waxy armor and those deep carbohydrate reserves. So if you spray a standard post-emergent on a baby fescue plant, its metabolic pathways are overwhelmed and it dies right alongside the weed.
So what am I supposed to do? Do I just have to let the weeds completely take over my yard while my new grass grows? Like I just stand there and watch them steal the nutrients out of the soil?
Well, no, you don't surrender to the weeds, but you must be highly strategic. Weed control and overseeding must be intricately coordinated.
How did that work?
There are very specific, specialized, seed-safe weed preventers that target broadleaf weeds but use chemical pathways that actually spare certain turf grasses.
Oh, that's clever.
Very. But even then, you have to follow precise timing windows for applying post-emergent controls. You usually have to wait until the new fescue has been mowed 3 or 4 times, which signals that it has developed enough maturity to withstand the chemical stress.
3 or 4 mows. Okay.
Yeah. This is where a comprehensive, sequenced approach becomes absolutely critical. You are managing a delicate chemical dance to suppress the weeds while shielding the vulnerable grass.
That is a delicate dance. And speaking of nutrients and feeding, instinct betrays a lot of homeowners here, too,
Yeah.
because we think more food automatically equals more growth. Like if a little fertilizer is good, just dumping a heavy bag of it all over the yard has to be great.
Oh, that instinct is precisely how homeowners waste money, pollute local water systems, and potentially burn their lawns to a crisp. The guide explicitly warns against simply dumping fertilizer and hoping for the best. Now, fescue absolutely requires nutrients throughout its growing season to rebuild the energy it lost during that summer dormancy.
Right.
But the timing, the chemical composition of the fertilizer, and the biological readiness of the plant matter immensely.
Yeah, the guide lists out a whole set of variables. It says you have to evaluate the existing soil conditions, turf density, the recent overseeding schedule, the upcoming weather patterns, and what nutrients are actually already available in the ground.
Exactly. It's complex. Grassroots use a biological process called active transport to pull in nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Active transport.
Right. And active transport requires the plant to expend energy. If the soil is too cold, or if the soil is severely compacted and lacking oxygen, the roots cannot physically breathe well enough to generate the energy required to absorb that fertilizer.
So it's literally suffocating and starving at the same time.
Yes. So if you dump a high nitrogen, quick release fertilizer on a lawn right before a massive rainstorm, or when the soil temperatures are too low for active transport, the roots just won't take it up.
So where does it go?
The nitrogen will simply wash away into the street and down the storm drain.
What a waste.
A total waste. A successful fertility program provides the exact macronutrients the lawn needs precisely when the plant is biologically capable of utilizing them.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't feed a newborn baby a heavy steak dinner.
No, you wouldn't.
You have to give the plant what its root system can actually digest at its current stage of development.
Exactly. The plant dictates the schedule, not the homeowner's weekend availability.
Okay, so let's recap where we are. We have engineered the compacted soil with aeration. We carefully timed our seed for September. We navigated the chemical weed war. And we provided targeted nutrients.
That's done a lot.
We really have. Now we arrive at the absolute lifeline of the whole operation. This is the most critical and honestly the most misunderstood part of the entire process. Keeping the system alive with water.
Yes. This is where the magic happens, or where it all falls apart.
Right, because looking at the Lawn Pride Guide alongside that fantastic specialized pro note on watering strategies, there is a very logical trap here that I've definitely fallen into.
I think we all have.
Right. If I want this delicate new grass to grow, I'll just go out and water it a little bit every single day to keep the surface nice and damp.
Oh, boy. This raises an important question, and it really highlights the single most common point of failure for fall overseeding.
Really? Just a little daily watering is the biggest failure.
Yes. The core concept to internalize here is that frequency and volume are completely different mechanisms.
Okay.
A lawn can receive a light, daily sprinkling of water and still completely fail if the soil profile isn't receiving usable moisture at the correct depth.
Well, the pronote breaks this down beautifully into two distinct biological phases, which really helps make sense of this. Phase 1 is germination. So this is the critical window right after you drop the seed into those aeration holes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And during this germination phase, the absolute requirement is consistent, uninterrupted moisture.
Uninterrupted.
Uninterrupted.
Wow.
Because for a seed to sprout, it undergoes a physical process called imbibition.
Imbibition.
Yes. The seed coat physically absorbs water and swells. Once that seed swells and the metabolic process of germination begins, it is completely irreversible. The seed bed cannot be allowed to dry out.
So there's no going back.
None. If a tiny fescue seed swells with water, initiates growth, and then the surrounding soil bone dries in the afternoon sun, the embryo will desiccate and die instantly.
Wow.
It will not pause and wait for the next watering, it's just over. So it must stay continuously damp. However, you must water deep enough that the moisture actually penetrates the top layer of the soil.
Okay.
If you just miss the surface with a hose, it evaporates into the atmosphere in an hour, leaving the seed totally vulnerable.
Okay. So phase 1 is consistent penetrating moisture so the seed never dries out after imbibition.
Yes.
Got it. But eventually we hit phase 2, which is post-germination. The grass is up. It looks like a bright green fuzz covering the yard.
The best feeling.
It is. The pronote states this is where you have to fundamentally shift your entire watering strategy.
You have to. Once that grass is established and pushing green blades into the air, you must immediately transition away from keeping the surface constantly wet.
Okay, so what's the new rule?
The new rule becomes depth over frequency. You intentionally water less often, but for significantly longer durations.
So what does watering deeper actually do to the physical anatomy of the plant? Why does that matter?
It trains the root system through a biological process called hydrotropism.
Hydrotropism.
Yeah. Roots do not magically know where water is hidden. They grow in the areas where water is consistently available.
Makes sense.
So if you continue to only water the top half-inch of soil every day, the roots will stay entirely in that top half-inch because they have absolutely no biological incentive to expend energy growing deeper.
They're lazy. They got the water right there.
Exactly. But if you water deeply, soaking the soil several inches down, and then allow the top layer to dry out for a few days, the roots will naturally follow the receding moisture line deep into the earth.
How they chase it down.
They chase it down. And developing a robust, deep root system is the absolute only way that grass will survive the blistering heat of the North Carolina summer next year. Shallow, top-heavy roots will just bake and die in July soil temperatures.
Wow.
Deep roots can tap into cooler soil zones and access those deeper insulated moisture reserves.
So you are literally training the anatomy of the plant with your sprinkler system. That's incredible. And speaking of sprinklers, the guide emphasizes how incredibly tricky fall weather can be in the South.
Oh, it's a roller coaster.
Truly. We get remnants of hurricanes dumping inches of rain, and then we get random bone-dry droughts in October.
Correct.
The goal isn't to just water more. It's to water intelligently based on the environment. You have to actually track the rainfall. Like, if nature delivers 2 inches of slow, soaking rain on a Tuesday, you do not need to run your automated sprinklers on Wednesday just because your timer says it's watering day.
Exactly. There is no single universal watering schedule. Your plan must adapt to your specific soil drainage, the ambient temperature, and your site conditions. It requires active participation and observation, not just setting a dial on an irrigation box in the garage and walking away for the season.
Set it and forget it is a myth.
Total myth.
Okay, let's take a step back and just recap this incredible biological journey we've just outlined, because this was a lot.
It's a massive process.
Yes. We started by accurately diagnosing the lawn, realizing that brown, dormant fescue is just utilizing a survival mechanism and isn't necessarily dead.
Put the tiller away.
Yes, put the tiller away. Then we established the biological urgency of acting in the golden window of September so roots can establish before the freeze. We broke down the microscopic reality of compacted clay and why core aeration is the absolute only mechanical way to allow oxygen and roots to penetrate the soil. We navigated that tricky chemical turf war of managing weeds while protecting highly vulnerable baby grass, and we learned why dumping untimed fertilizer is just a washout waste of money.
A literal washout,
And finally, we broke down the 2-phase watering method, maintaining consistent moisture for the physical swelling of the seed, and then shifting to deep, infrequent watering to force those roots down into the cooler earth. So what does this all mean?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the underlying theme of this entire deep dive is proactive preparation.
Preparation, yeah.
The meticulous, highly coordinated interventions you make in September and October are exactly what dictate if your lawn will survive the following July and August. You are using the cool fall weather to build the biological armor that the grass will wear during the summer.
Right.
If you wait until spring to try and fix a struggling fescue lawn, the heat will arrive before the roots are fully mature, and the cycle of failure will just repeat itself.
You are building biological armor. I love that phrasing. As we wrap up this deep dive, looking at all the intense science, the chemistry, the immense effort required here, it really leaves me with one final thought for our listener to ponder.
Oh, let's hear it.
Well, we just spent our time detailing this massive multi-step intervention, right? We're talking about heavy mechanical core aeration to fight compacted clay. We're talking about precise 2-phase hydro-training strategies to force roots to grow deeper. Specialized chemical herbicide coordination.
That's a heavy lift.
It's a huge lift. And all of this is meticulously timed to fight off the impending heat stress of the South. And we are doing all of this because tall fescue is strictly a cool season grass living in a hot weather climate.
Right.
So considering that fescue inherently hates the southern summer heat, are we fighting a losing battle against geography? Like, when you look at the sheer amount of money, water, chemical intervention, and physical labor required just to keep a cool season grass on life support during a brutal North Carolina summer, does it force us to question if we should fundamentally rethink our aesthetic expectations?
That's a profound question.
Right. Should we be asking ourselves what a healthy lawn is actually supposed to look like naturally in a southern climate? Because clearly this takes a lot to fake it.
It really does. It's a man-made ecosystem.
Exactly. Just something to mull over next time you're staring down at your sprinkler system in the driveway.
Yeah.
Well, keep digging, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.
Thank you for listening to the Pain in the Grass podcast, sponsored by Lawn Pride of North Charlotte, Huntersville, your go-to name in turf care for homeowners and businesses seeking beauty, quality, and reliability, powered by family and fueled by passion. Until next time, make sure to take care of that pain in the grass.